Welcome. So, have you ever stopped and wondered why McDonald's can get away with saying, I'm loving it, but if you say, I'm knowing it, it just sounds wrong? Well, in this explainer, we are going to solve that exact puzzle and unlock a really key secret about English verbs. All right, let's jump right in with a puzzle you've definitely come across. We all know the McDonald's slogan, I'm loving it. It's everywhere and it sounds totally fine. But if you try to say something like, I'm knowing the answer, your brain kind of short circuits. It just feels incorrect. So what's the deal? You might think the answer has something to do with verb tenses, like when something is happening. But that's not it at all. The real secret is that English actually has two completely different kinds of verbs, and they play by different rules. And that brings us to the most important rule we need to get our heads around, the huge difference between what we call action verbs and state verbs. That's the key to really mastering the present continuous tense and sounding way more natural. So let's break it down. On one side, you've got dynamic verbs, but it's much easier to just think of them as action verbs. And on the other side, we have stative verbs, which we'll call state verbs. This one distinction is going to clear up so much confusion. Let's start with the easy ones, dynamic verbs. Put simply, these are for things you can do. They describe an action, a process, or some kind of change. A great way to think about them is that they have a clear beginning and an end. For example, Joe is chasing the bus. The chasing starts, and eventually it's going to end. And here are some classic examples you use all the time. Eat, run, write, play. You get it. Because these are all active processes, you can totally put them in that ing form to show they're happening right now. Like, sorry, can't talk, I'm eating dinner, or she is running a marathon right now. It's an action in progress. Simple enough, right? Okay, now for the other side of the coin, stative verbs. These verbs are different. They don't describe an action at all. Instead, they describe a state, a condition, an emotion, a belief. It's all about how things are, not what they're doing. And this is the crucial point, right here. These verbs describe a state of being. You don't do knowing, you just know. You don't do owning, you just own something. And because they aren't actions, they generally can't be used in that continuous ing form. And this takes us right back to our original problem. You would never say, I'm not understanding you. It just sounds off. You'd say, I don't understand you. And you'd say, I like chocolate, not I'm liking chocolate. The verbs understand and like, they describe your state of mind, not an action you're performing. But wait, just when you think you've got it figured out, well, this is English, so of course there are exceptions. Some verbs are like chameleons. They can be either action or state verbs, and it all comes down to the context. This is where it gets really interesting. Now, take a look at this. What's so cool here is how the meaning of a single verb can completely flip. Check out think, have, and be. Depending on exactly how you use them, they can describe either a static state of being or a dynamic, ongoing action. Let's break it down with think. When you say, I think that's a bad idea, you're just expressing your opinion. That's the state. But if you say, shh, I'm thinking about the problem, you're describing the mental process of consideration. That's an action, so using ing is absolutely perfect. All right, now for my absolute favorite part of this whole topic. There's this fantastic little twist that lets you inject a ton of emotion and personality into your speech. I'm talking about the fine art of complaining in English. So, have you ever heard someone say something just like this? We just learned that you normally don't use ing with habitual actions. So why does this sentence not only sound right, but sound so common? And this slide illustrates the nuance perfectly. If you say, she always forgets her keys, that's just a neutral fact. You're simply stating a habit. But if you say, she's always forgetting her keys, suddenly you can hear the emotion, right? You're not just stating a fact, you're complaining. You're showing your annoyance about that habit. And this little emotional trick isn't just for the word always. It works with other adverbs like it too. For instance, you could say, he is forever making that noise, or they are constantly checking their phones during dinner. That continuous tense adds a whole layer of irritation. So, there you have it. You know the difference between state and action verbs, you've seen the tricky exceptions, and now you even know how to complain effectively. Let's just quickly recap how to put all this together and make it your new grammar superpower. Here's a super simple mental checklist you can use anytime you're feeling unsure. First, ask yourself, is this verb an action or a state? If it's a state, just stick to the simple form. Second, think, does this verb have a double meaning? Is it thinking as an opinion or thinking as a process? And third, and this is the fun one, ask yourself, am I just stating a fact or am I complaining? See, mastering this one rule gives you so much more precision and personality when you speak English. Now you know exactly why I'm loving it works for McDonald's. It's meant to feel active, current, and exciting. And why I'm knowing it is just plain wrong. So what's another tricky grammar point you'd like us to tackle next? Let us know.